to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about recently acquired Leonard Williams. The New York Giants, of course, acquired him via the trade deadline about 4 weeks ago from the New York Jets. And it was a much criticized move. Now, I like the Leonard Williams acquisition in terms of personnel. I didn't necessarily love the price that we gave up, but I thought he fit the timeline of the team, and I thought he fit the defense well, and it would make for a young, emerging, up-and-coming defensive line. And I thought it was a certainty that Leonard Williams would be back with the New York Giants. After all, Dave Gettleman did trade for this guy, knowing that he was going to be a free agent in the next year's upcoming class. Well, since being here, Leonard Williams, well, he has done some good things. The run defense has played better, but at the end of the day, and it's not all his fault, we don't have a good defense, but how good has this defense played? I mean, he played against the Jets. The Jets scored a season high in points against us coming into that game. They absolutely, dismantled us on the defensive end. Our defense has not played well. We continue to struggle on third down. I recognize the run defense is better, and there are times in the game where I do recognize that he does get a push up the middle and collapses the pocket. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have any sacks as a Giant. He doesn't have any sacks for the year. And to insinuate that he is an elite defensive tackle, the numbers just don't add up, and that's what you get paid off of in this league. Production, not potential. Yes, he has a world of potential, and I said that when we traded for him. The guy was thought to be the most talented player in his draft class, so he certainly has ability. The question is the desire there? Does he work as hard as some of these other players? You could certainly debate that. Since he's been in the league, he's made one Pro Bowler as a reserve, and he does not have eye-popping numbers. Like I said, he's good against the run. I think he had double the amount of pressures of anyone on our roster when we had acquired him, and that certainly will help our defensive line. But his PFF grade doesn't jump off the charts. His sack numbers don't jump off the charts. He's basically a run stuffer, and he doesn't do much else. The guys that are at the top of this list, they do everything. They get sacks. Now, nobody, like he does say in fairness to him in his quote, is Aaron Donald. But he basically said, I'm on that next tier. And when we take a look at some of the names, I don't think you're going to agree with him. And I don't even think you need to look at their numbers, but we're going to take a look into them anyway. I think Dave Gettleman at this point probably should cut bait. Now, we gave up a third and a fifth. That fifth becomes a fourth if we sign him. Not to mention, if we were to sign him, when you look at some of the comparable contracts that he is going to demand, if a team is willing to give him that, it's going to eat into our cap space significantly. And I don't think he's worth a long-term commitment. I would worry about, yes, potential, but he hasn't had the production. So Dave Gettleman does not look good for making this trade right now. It seems as if he gave away a fifth-round pick. I would assume he will get a third or fourth-round pick in compensation for Leonard Williams if he does hit a big, a big signing out on the free agency market, wherever he may end up. So the third-round pick will be close to being negated, in my opinion, but he will lose a fifth basically for nothing. They acquired him when they were 2-6. They were completely out of the playoffs, and this is a head-scratcher at this point if they do not bring Leonard Williams back, but it might be the right decision based on some of the things that Leonard Williams said today. And let's jump into some of the quotes by Leonard Williams. Here's the first one. I don't think they're giving me what I think, if I don't think they're giving me what I think I'm worth, then obviously I think hitting free agency would make sense, Williams said via NJ.com. Everything is going to have to match up. I definitely think I'm a top-tier interior defensive lineman in that top percentage of the linemen. I wouldn't say Aaron Donald, but I would definitely put myself up there with a lot of the other top guys. Okay? So he believes he's right there, right after Aaron Donald, basically from what he said right there. Next thing he comes out and says, yeah, I would be open to staying with the Giants if I felt like they were offering me something that I think I'm worth, he said. And before I get into my thoughts at the end of this video, maybe, obviously he thinks he's worth about $17 million a year when you look at some of these contracts, 17 or 18, because the salary cap goes up every year. And maybe if he doesn't get that, he's willing to come back here on a $13, $14 million a year contract, which I think is more fair for a player that has produced at the rate that he has at his age. But I'm not breaking the bank for Leonard Williams. I'm just not doing it. The production has not been there. Sometimes you got to cut your losses like the Raiders did with Antonio Brown. And here is his grade for the year in 2019, which is a respectable grade, 68.4 in PFF. I don't need to look into the sack numbers because they're not there. Like I said, he does get some pressure up the middle. I've seen that since he's been on the Giants, and he's a good run stuffer. Here is a list of the defensive tackles that are the highest paid in the league. We're not even going to look at Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald, at the end of the day, is just on another level. I don't think you can compare him to, to an Aaron Donald, and even he said that. But he put his name in the hat with these other players: Fletcher Cox, Grady Jarrett, Geno Atkins, Jarrell Casey, Marcel Darius. Now, I think Grady Jarrett is the best example to look at, being that he signed his contract extension last year, and he was of a similar age to a Leonard Williams and plays a similar position. So I think Grady Jarrett is the best example to look at, and Grady Jarrett got paid handsomely, $17 million a year. Now, first I'm going to look at Geno Atkins, who, is one of the premier defensive tackles in the league, but he signed his contract extension a few years ago. Here were his numbers. He signed it after the 2017 season. In 2018, he had 10 sacks in 2017, and his PFF grade was a 90.7. We looked at our boy, Leonard Williams. It was 68, so that is a huge difference, and he made 16.3. Granted, it was 2 years ago. The salary cap goes up every year, so Geno Atkins probably in today's market would make 18 a year if he were to hit free agency this year. 18 and a half, somewhere in there. Leonard Williams doesn't stack up, not even close. The next guy we're going to look at is, I believe, this is, let me just make sure I'm getting this right. This is Fletcher Cox, the next guy we're going to look at. Fletcher Cox, of course, of the Eagles, signed a huge contract extension when he hit the open market and has been a pest to the New York Giants, and we're going to see him tonight. Well, his PFF grade in 2015 was 90.2, and he produced, I think it was 10 sacks as well. One of the better players in the league. And then finally, the last guy I wanted to take a look at was the guy that I said is most comparable, who, like I said on this list, Grady Jarrett ranks third. He was of a similar age to where Leonard Williams will be when he hits free agency, and he got paid $17 million a year. Well, Grady Jarrett last year had a PFF grade of 91, and he produced 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 49 combined tackles, none of which Leonard Williams is projecting to hit. So the numbers just don't stack up. The production doesn't stack up. He's not even close to these players in terms of production. I mean, you're talking about guys with PFF grades in the 90s. That's why they got paid what they did. Leonard Williams is in the high 60s, low 70s. He's not worth that. Now, like I said, the Giants kind of put themselves in this spot when they traded for him. So if you want to give him 13, 14, I'll understand it. But you cannot give this guy $18 million, which is what the market is going to call for a top-end defensive tackle, something he just certainly is not. If you're going to get him for 12, 13, 14, I'll understand it, right? Because of his age, because of his upside. And I do think he can he could be a big-time contributor for this defense going forward. But the production just doesn't match up. And when you pay players above their production, you end up with a Nate Solder. Nate Solder was a good offensive lineman. He was never great. They paid him as the highest left tackle in the sport. The Giants cannot make that same mistake with Leonard Williams, even if it means giving away a draft pick. Just can't do it. Dave Gettleman made a bad trade. That's the way you got to look at it if this guy's going to go out there and command $18, $19 million a year. Giants cannot give Leonard Williams what he wants because he's just not worth it. That's my take on it. As always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.